All right, guys, how's everybody doing? Everyone have a good lunch? Yeah, all right, excellent. And before I actually get started, how about another nice round of applause for our wonderful organizers today at Erie Day of Code? Yeah, thanks to them, doing a great job, and we appreciate that. Hey, before we get started, on the count of 3, can I hear you say no? 1, 2, 3. No. Come on, let's do that one more time. 1, 2, 3. No. Yes, excellent, love it, love it. So let's go ahead and dive in. Why is this talk important? Well, it's important for a number of reasons. Whether we realize it or not, we are coached out of saying no as we grow older. It's one of the first words that we learn, and yet as we grow older, we're taught that no is negative, it's bad, we shouldn't use it. So that's important for us to understand that no still has a place, it still has a purpose, and it's important to know what those purposes are. For us as technologists, and that can be anywhere from a programmer to a project manager to a product manager, let's face it, our skills are in high demand today. And because of that, we have to make sure that we ourselves aren't overwhelmed, overworked, exploited for our talents. People need us, they need us a lot, but we've got to make sure that we protect ourselves. No is one way to help us do that. It protects our time and our energy. And for those of us that lead teams, no is really important because it helps us protect our teams, helps our teams stay focused, it helps our teams stay directed, and it helps them focus on doing what they do best. No is a great way to keep our teams from getting distracted from those external pressures, whether those are inside your organization or outside your organization. So who am I? I am the lead of product development at Think Through Math. Our table is there in the back, and by the way, we have plenty of swag left, so please take some home with you. I'm historically a product, people, and ops manager. That's kind of where my skills lie. I've also taught IT management, so there's nothing more fun at times than helping adults in night school learn about why technology is their friend besides what they do on Facebook. I'm a student of soft skills, so in as much as you've got folks who really get jazzed about learning different programming languages, I love understanding how people work in software development, the human side of how things go and how I can help influence that. I'm a father to one ragdoll cat, and I have to disclose something very important. Those of you who know me are looking at me going, Tim is giving a talk on no? Right? I'm not an expert at this, by the way. In as much as I very much believe in this, I am a student and a continuing practitioner of using the word no. I don't get it right every time either, so just know that. So what I'd like to know is, I'm going to show you a couple examples of some scenes where people are saying no, and I'd like you to kind of let me know if you think these are effective. The first one is from an old TV show called Designing Women, and in this episode, this lead character there, she is learning about self-defense. So I want to kind of play that for you and see what you guys think about it.
I believe so.
Yes.
Okay. Say no.
No.
Effective? Yeah? No? Probably not so much. The next one, let's take a look at that one. In this one is from a musical about Charlie Brown. And in this one, Sally Brown is talking about how she learns to say the word no.
That's what you think.
What? But I've got to go practice my Chopin.
No! I like it. No! That's a good philosophy. No! No! No!
That's your new philosophy, huh?
Yes!
So what do you think about that one? Have you been in meetings with someone like that? I have. I know how you feel. So yeah, those are just a couple of examples of how you might see no playing out. And maybe there's a time and a place, but I think in no is probably not the best example of saying no. Oh, let me go ahead and get back on that. All right. So when do we learn to say no? Who thinks they know when we actually learn developmentally to say no? Anyone have any ideas or suggestions? Yes, sir? 9 months old, okay, yeah. Anyone else? Wager a guess, anyone?
2 years.
2 years, another one? In the womb, right? Excellent, excellent. Let's see what the real answer is here. About 18 months. or toddler age. So I think, Alan, I think you might have been the closest to that. You're going through it right now, that's how you know. Well, I'm pleased to announce that you have actually won a prize from us here at the Erie Day of Code, a book from Mr. Bill LeBoon, who's going to be talking to us later on software testing. Excellent. Congratulations, sir. But yes, that is technically called something called toddler refusal. That is where kids actually know to start saying, no, 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 no. Do you want to take a bath? No. Do you want to go outside? No. And usually they actually do want to do those things, but now they understand what no means, and they want to say it all the time. Right, Alan? Yeah. That's about the time where we start to learn our language, our self-awareness, and our mobility, and kind of what we're capable of and what our power is. But what really happens as we go from toddlerhood to adulthood? So we look right around that 2-year, 1 to 3 year range, we're learning no. Where do we lose it? We lose it somewhere in something called the negativity bias. Has anyone heard of the negativity bias? If you have, yeah, thank you. I'm sure you guys have too. Yeah, exactly. The negativity bias means that we have greater sensitivity to unpleasant news than we do to positive news. And there have been studies about this. There have been studies that look at people's brains and will actually study how their brains light up if they're given bad news. And they've noticed that the brain lights up the same way when you're given bad news is when you experience physical pain. That's crazy, right? But that's how we feel when we're rejected. We're told no. Our brains are also wired to remember rejection. Why? Because this is an evolutionary thing we're talking about here, folks. This means that we got to go back to our cave ancestors who are out there in the wild trying to hunt for food. They need to understand that if the T-Rex is standing over there, I got to remember where that T-Rex was standing because I might get eaten instead of wanting to eat something else. And that gets hard-coded into our brains. And really, the negativity bias is the DNA of a no. It is what makes the no a no. It is what it fundamentally wires what involves no. Now you're like, oh my gosh, right? I figured out no. It's that negativity bias. So all I have to do, I think very scientifically, I just have to turn that off, right? Just flip that switch, turn the negative into a positive, done, I'm great, everything's good. Well, not so fast. There are other things that influence why it is difficult for us to say no. First are societal norms, right? A lot of times it's expected that we are going to be complicit, that we are going to be friendly, that we are going to be kind. A lot of people view us by saying no, thinking that we're being non-compliant. Society kind of tells us to go along with each other. Our family values. Some folks who actually grow up in households where they're actually taught not to say no, to be very, very accommodating. And those things take root as we grow up. Some folks have a fear of personal aggression or want to avoid conflict. So naturally, they're going to abide, and they will do it almost to a fault. They will do it and put themselves always second to actually avoid having a conflicting conversation. We oftentimes find it hard to say no because we know how it feels when no is said to us. And because we have this ability to empathize, we don't want to be the person that's inflicting that pain that we talked about in the brain. We don't want to be the person that makes someone else feel that way. So we will say yes instead of no. Fear of being labeled. A lot of times we have a fear of being known as the one that doesn't come along, the one who's the standout, the one who says, oh, he's the guy who doesn't really want to work with anybody, or he's the guy who's always in the meeting and doesn't really want to talk to anybody or interact. We don't want to be labeled as something. We have a fear of being alone. So, if we're the lone dissenter in a crowd, we don't really want to be the only person in that crowd who said no to whoever it is we're going to go to lunch or whatever that next project is. We don't want to stand out. We worry about letting others down. And ultimately, one of the reasons it's hard to say no is because at our nature, a lot of times, we just want to be kind. We want to accommodate. But what this talk is all about in many respects is that when you do that, you're putting yourself second, and when you put yourself second, you can set yourself up for some big problems. So you might end up actually looking like this, right? So now we're at the point here where we know it's negativity bias, and we know there are all these things that have influenced no that we cannot control, right? So what the heck do we do right now? right? And by the way, this is Louis C.K. Louis C.K. is actually here with us today. Would you go ahead and stand up there just in the back? There he is. Thank you. Thank you for coming all the way from Hollywood, Louis. We appreciate it. But yeah, so what the heck now? Now we know all this stuff. What can we do about it? Why should we do anything about it? Well, why should we say no more than we do? Right? We should say no because it allows us to focus on more important things. If I'm making sure that I'm putting myself first, or I'm aligned to my team's objectives or my business objectives, if I say no to these other things that I don't need to be worrying about, I can focus on the things I should be worrying about. We can provide opportunity for others. I love this one the most because those of you that work on teams or lead teams, this is important. When you say no, sometimes it allows someone else from the team to step up and take an opportunity, and allows them to be able to maybe take a chance or have an experience they wouldn't normally have had. So even though you yourself are saying no, you may be providing opportunity for someone else on the team to step up and experience something new. We don't need to be visible all the time. I know we think we do, and believe me, I am just as guilty of this. But we don't always need to be in every meeting and every conversation everywhere. Sometimes just not being present, not going to that meeting is a way to say no, and it's a way for us to protect ourselves. We need to take care of ourselves, and we especially need to do that because we don't owe anybody anything and nobody owes us anything, right? A lot of these are dynamics that we have kind of, as we talked about, society has put in our heads, our families put in our heads. Reality is, you don't owe anyone anything, they don't owe you anything. We just kind of talk ourselves into thinking about that. We can't control what others think of us, and if we don't say no, it's really hard to manage our own priorities, and then it becomes harder to manage our team's priorities, right? So, my goodness, at that point, you're underneath a mountain of yeses that you can never actually get through, and that's tough. We can help our customers focus on their true business need. We kind of heard about that earlier. In terms of scope creep, no, you don't need this new feature. No, you don't need to pivot right now. Focus on what you're doing at this second, get that done, and then we'll iterate into that next. We can help our customers do that. And of course, no one is ever indispensable or irreplaceable, right? That's a tough thing to hear. In our own way, I think we all want to think that we aren't, but we kind of are. So remember, if you say no to something, someone else is going to probably come around and be able to do it for whoever needed it, and that's actually okay, right? Because you've been able to focus on what you need to focus on. If you're a leader or a manager, not saying no or avoiding saying no to these external pressures can keep your team from being overworked or overwhelmed and underappreciated. It can keep your team from losing their focus. It can also keep your team from getting tense or having conflicting or conflict or tension-based environments. Because let's face it, if somebody is constantly obligating your time, that sounds like a terrible way to work, right? How do you ever know what it is you're making headway on? How do you ever know what it is that you're supposed to be successful at if your time is so constantly obligated by someone else that you definitively don't know where you're making movement? We need to know that. That will result in employee turnover, and of course, as leaders, we want to protect our teams. It's kind of our jobs. If we don't say no more, we'll leave our teams vulnerable and they won't feel protected. And of course, if they don't feel protected and don't feel like they can focus on what it is they need to do, ultimately, they're going to leave. We also need to be careful with working with teams is to say no without demotivating folks on the team. And we do that by making sure if we have to say no to our team, teams come to us all the time and say, hey, I know we do this, but I really want to work on this thing over here, right? And you as a manager is kind of like, well, that might be a good idea, but gosh, no one's asking for that feature, right? That's a cool feature, but no one's going to pay for it. So sometimes when you say no to your teams, you have to do it with a business rationale or provide some context. Let them understand and help them to understand why they can't work on that right now, right? Why it's important for them to stay aligned to what our business or product or service objectives are and stay focused on that. And then have an open dialogue about that. Why can't we do that? Maybe there's no one willing to fund it at this point in time. Maybe there are business objectives that we have to meet that this doesn't go into. Be honest about it. That's what's most important. And then find another way to work in that request. Maybe there's another need. Maybe that person's coming to you, giving you a clue about something they'd like to be working on, maybe as a professional development opportunity. So think about different ways that you can provide those opportunities that don't necessarily involve doing the exact thing that that person brought to you that just doesn't kind of fit in. So you're saying, well, no, not this thing, but maybe I can focus your energies over here, which helps you scratch that itch, but at the same time allows the business to move ahead within its priorities. How the heck are we going to do all of this, right? One of my key favorite phrases is, I'm not saying no, I'm just saying not right now. Right? And that works a lot of the times because, case in point, I had an executive vice president come to me probably about maybe 6 months ago and say, I need you to drop everything you're doing and work on these parts of the application that you support because I'm talking to one person in the Middle East and he might want to sell our product. And I listened, as you do, and I said, I'm not doing that. And I was met with kind of a very stoned face back. Well, but this could be a big opportunity for us. Could be. Why don't you see if there's actually a market there before I actually try to start making work for the teams and changing their attention to other things when something may not even pan out. And ultimately, she was not really happy about that. She wasn't happy she got away, but she couldn't deny the fact that she was talking to one person, I think in Saudi Arabia, who really was trying to sell our product and had no sales pipeline, had no customers lined up, and I wasn't going to do this work without some semblance of the fact about what the payoff was going to be, because we've got other priorities where the payoff is going to be big. And that was what I was saying. I said, I'm not saying no, but what I am saying is, prove to me that there's something viable here, and I'm totally happy to come back to the table. I'm totally happy to adjust our roadmap once you show me that there's something viable here to work with. So here's some techniques for saying no. You're too busy. So this is John. John asked Gina about making 1,500 copies of TPS reports, and Gina says, sorry, I have other priorities at the moment and can't commit to this. Perfectly legitimate way for saying no. I'm working on these other things. I can't do yours now. End of story. Hey, John comes back again. Can you please do this? I'm still busy. I'm still working on more important things. Can you come back another time and maybe I'm not so busy? And I'm not saying I can do it, but maybe at that time I'll be able to talk, right? So we've got, I'm too busy, please come back later. We've also got this one, I'd love to do this, but, ... where you kind of fill in what comes after the ellipses. Now John wants 5,000 copies of these TPS reports, because, man, he is demanding. And she says, I'd love to do this for you, John, but I really have to finish Roger's taxes first. So let this person know that, hey, you'd like to help them, but here's the other priorities directly ahead of you, you know? And in some cases, for those of you that are working in certain types of projects, those priorities are transparent, and what I love to do oftentimes is say, I'm working on these 3 things for these 3 people. If you want to negotiate my time, talk to those 3 people. If you agree to let them deprioritize what they need of my time, I'd be happy to bump yours up in elevation, right? Make the people who need your time accountable. Next, we've got, I'll think it over. Or another way to look at it is, let me consider that and I'll get back to you. Another great way to kind of not only buy time, but sometimes when you kind of let this person know that you're not into doing this for them, sometimes they never come back, right? Because they realize it's not that important, they forget about it, or they find someone else to do it. As a result, your time is protected. Maybe there's a better person to help. So John now needs 25,000 copies of these TPS reports. He's just ever more demanding. And basically what she's saying is, I don't think I can do this, but Luis might be a person to help you. Now that could be because Gina doesn't know how to run the copier. You know, maybe Luis does. That's a perfectly reasonable explanation. You know, if somebody came to me and said, you know, can you code this app in C#? I'd say no, but I know 10 people who can. You probably should talk to them. And then something very simple. I cannot do this. Depending on who you're talking to, sometimes you just don't owe any further clarification than that, other than I can't do it, right? You don't have to always give them a reason why. It helps soften that rejection, but in the case of many cases, you don't have to do anything, just say that you cannot. And another one is, it doesn't meet the business needs. So now John's saying, hey Gina, I'd like to sell you this new mimeograph machine, right? Show of hands, who knows what a mimeograph is? Yeah, it's an old-timey device. And basically Gina's saying, like, I don't care if you're going to give me a discount on the ink. Like, we use, like, copying machines now. So, sorry, but, like, I don't need a mimeograph and I don't want one. So, thank you, but this does not meet my needs at the current time. So, how about we try some exercises in saying no, huh? You into that? Yeah? All right. Can I have, let's see, about 6 volunteers come up to the stage? Yep, come on up. I need 6 people to come on up. And if you could, if 3 of you could be on one side of the stage and 3 of you on the other side. On either side of this screen here. Doesn't matter who. Looks like we need one more volunteer. Who's into it? Who's into it? All right. Thank you guys for coming up. There we go. Excellent. Okay. So I'm going to mute this for just 1 second. Hello? Yeah, there we go. Awesome. All right, so here's what's going to happen, guys. On the stage on this side, we've got a bunch of folks who are no people. And on this side of the stage, our lovely volunteers are requesters of something from these no people. And we're going to actually see here how our no people apply some of the techniques that we've just talked about. So 2 at a time, if we could have 2 volunteers come on up. Pair up out here at front, just 2 people. There we go. There we go. All right. Now, you, sir, need something, and you, sir, have a response. So why don't you ask this person what it is you need from them?
Hey, Derek, what do you need?
I need... This is hard.
I mean, it could be an oil change, it could be anything. To get your tires rotated?
I need 5 PCs provisioned by tomorrow.
Okay, I'm actually a little busy right now. I think Justin might be able to help you, though.
How do you feel about that?
That's not good enough. It's like I need them tomorrow, and I need you to do it.
I'm actually dealing with another client right now. It's like on fire. I got a fire going. I can hook you up with Justin's email, though. I can send you his email, give you contact information.
But you're so good at it. The way you do it is unlike the way anyone else does it. So I need you on this, man.
All right, Mitchell, give him one more shot here.
I cannot.
End of story. End of story. All right. Let's have 2 more folks come out. Awesome. Thank you for that. Thank you, guys. Let's try 2 more. All right. Well, let's see what we need here.
I need you to clip my cat's claws.
He needs to clip her cat's claws.
You know, I'm gonna have to think about that, and I'll get back with you. I'm working on some dogs right now, so I got some in the shop, and but I'll get back to you for sure.
Any response?
She's tearing up my furniture.
Well, I know a cat guy, Matt. He might be better for your problem. I can hook you up with him at some point.
We had Matt last week. It wasn't good.
Put me on the spot. I just don't have the time right now. These dogs are really, they got some claws, man. I'm telling you.
Anything?
I'm not very satisfied with the customer service.
I think that's true. That's true. And we have a lovely mail, too, that we'll send you. support@something.com. Thank you. Thank you very much, you guys. All right, 2 more people out. Let's give this one more shot.
So my kid's being a real crab. Would you mind if I just drop her off at your house for like a week while my wife and I go to the beach?
Sorry, I cannot.
Well, I mean, we kind of already bought the tickets, and it's, I mean, she's not really that bad when she's asleep.
I'd really like to do this, but I'm going to be out of town at the beach as well. That's convincing. I'm very convinced.
Oh man! Oh, I mean, I kind of already dropped her off at your place.
Okay, we got to see how this plays out. Which one of those techniques covers when she's already there? Well, you better go pick her up. But I do know a guy who's available. Justin here?
That's right.
Justin and Matt, awesome. That's great. All right, thank you guys. Thank you so much. Thanks, you guys can sit down. Oh, and by the way, we've got several prizes for all of you right there on the way down. So go ahead and check them out and distribute them among yourselves if you like. Thank you again, you guys. No, you guys can keep those if you like. Thanks. So here we are, guys. You kind of saw that play out. What do we do next? What do we do to move forward? Don't fear saying no. Yes, we're hardwired. Yes, we have all these other influences, but we don't need to be afraid of the word. Saying no is okay as saying yes. That's the second time today you have heard that. So that's a very key message. Saying no can protect your time and protect others' times. And remember, it can be intimidating to have to say no to somebody, but doing so can be incredibly liberating. Right? Do we have, how are we on time, Olive? We are right on? Okay. So if you do have any questions or experiences, feel free to share them as the day goes on. My name is Tim Bickerton. Thank you very much. You can find me at all these different places on the interwebs. Thank you very much. Take care.